Hello guys, Wicked here, and welcome to my 7 guide. Today I'll teach you everything you need to know about 7 and how to actually dominate games with him. Okay, so let's start with the laning phase, because laning phase is one of the most important things in this game. If you manage to win your lane, you have priority in lane and you can potentially get your tower early, which means you can also gank your teammates' lanes and help them out. You can take their turrets as well, and you can eventually snowball their map. So laning phase is super important, and that's why in our guide here, we are focusing on very strong early game. And for that reason, headshot booster is the first item we buy in most cases, unless we need to sustain and we need to go healing ride or extra regen because we're having a very tough time. So headshot booster is one of the items we want. Because with this item, if you shoot and you spray around and you hit the enemy one time in the head, you do a tremendous amount of damage early game, because it's a flat 40% bonus damage to the head. After headshot booster, you want to get basic magazine and you want monster rounds. These two items are generally just good because it allows you to push easier, you have more bullets, and you do more damage to the opponents. And also, monster rounds gives you a little bit of health and health regen, which is a super strong stat in laning phase, because sustain is just one of the best things. Now once you have your core orange items, you generally want to start getting some greens. And the reason we aren't focusing on purples, I just want to explain this quickly because it's important. 7 doesn't actually scale that well with spirit power, contrary to popular belief. And the reason for that is because your 3 power sets doesn't scale that well with spirit power. It's 0.2 scaling at level 1, and once you get maxed out it's 0.5. But what this actually means is the scaling is 0.2 at level 1 per spray. So when you fire 3 bullets, you only do 0.2 scaling. So if you hit all 3 bullets, it's slightly under 0.007 scaling, which is pretty much atrocious. It's awful. You don't really want to focus on purple items early. So instead we're getting Enduring Spirit, Reactive Barrier, and Return Fire. Now the order you buy these items really depends. For example, let's say you're against a Bebop. You really want Reactive Barrier because it's just super good. It gives you 400 bullet shield and a 200 spirit shield. So if you get hooked, you can survive, and often, in many cases, you're actually able to kill the Bebop instead of dying. Return Fire, I mean, let's say you're against a Wraith or a Haze who's shooting you a lot with a lot of bullets. You activate Return Fire, it does a tremendous amount of damage back to them. So these two items are super good against specific opponents, and it's very important you get these early if you're against those opponents where they're useful. But if you're not against the opponent where it's useful to buy these items, you can even skip them and buy them much later in the game. Or sometimes you can skip them altogether. Okay, now that you've sorted out all the green items that you want in the early game, it's time to get extra spirit. And then after that, you're gonna get active reload. And this is your kind of core early game build for laning phase. You can do jungle pretty quickly. And overall you have decent sustain, you're pretty strong, and so on. Now again, if you are struggling in the lane and you really need healing, you can get healing right, you can get extra regen. Both of these items are super good if you're having a tough time. But if you're not, don't waste your money on them, because you want to effectively spend your money as much as possible, and any wasted soul is really bad. Now, let's get into the second tier of items that I generally get. So I like Mystic Reeds because it makes you, one, a little bit bigger, the Lightning Ball. Hitting Lightning Ball for a little bit longer does a lot of damage to people, and it's also bigger, so you might be hitting more people in a team fight. It's just a strong ability. It also works with your 2, and it works with your 3 ability. It works with literally everything. Then after this, we want to get Surge of Power. And one of the reasons we get Surge of Power is because you don't buy movement speed. I don't think movement speed is worth it in this build, because 7 already scales with spirit power, and Surge of Power gives you a lot of movement speed when you activate it. So you don't need boots. So for that reason, you want to buy Surge of Power relatively early, and you want to put it on your 3 ability, Power Surge. It's just the best, it works really well, and it allows you to clean jungle camps really quickly. Now at this point, it's time to just start funneling all your souls into spirit items. You want to get Improved Spirit. It's a great item, it gives you spirit power, it gives you health regen, it gives you movement speed, which is really beneficial, and it gives you bonus health. And you also get the movement speed because you scale the spirit power. Next, you're getting Duration Extender, and the reason we're getting Duration Extender this late is because at this point you're going to start having max level 2. And you don't really want to get Duration Extender before you have max level 2, because it's just not that good. The reason you get Duration Extender is mainly for the 2. Kinda it's decent on the 1, and it's also okay on Power Surge, the 3. But it's not as good as on the 2. The stun is everything, and that's why you want to get Duration Extender. Now for the last item, again the second tier items, it's Alchemical Fire. And I generally sell Headshot Booster to buy Alchemical Fire. Now this item is probably going to be a little bit controversial, but I think it's the best item in 7. Because you have a 2.9 second stun, later on it's going to be a 5.8 second stun with Echo Shot. which is a tremendous amount of time. You can make people stuck in your alchemical fire for a very long time. The damage is actually insane, and it scales for spirit power, so all your spirit items is going to boost the damage even further. Not only that, it also gives extremely good base stats with 14% weapon damage, 11 spirit power and a small shield. And it gives you 50% weapon damage as long as they're in the fire. It's just a tremendous amount of damage. You stun somebody, you put your ball on them, and you put on a chemical fire, and then you start shooting. You will do a lot of damage. Okay, so I want to scroll down to the bottom of my guide, and I want to talk about important items read. Basically, this section is situational items, because often you're going to have one extra free slot in the purple items. And these 3 items are all extremely good depending on what you're against. Decay is in my opinion one of the best items. It's super strong, the cast range scales with spirit power. So your cast range is going to be very long on 7. Now Mystic Vulnerability is nothing special, you don't really need this item. It adds a little bit more damage because the spirit resist is going to be lowered by 12%. It's a pretty decent item, it does what it needs to do. And you also apply it very easily on a lot of people, so it helps your team as well. And then last we have Suppressor. Suppressor, again, it's really good against a lot of gun heroes. If you're against a lot of gun heroes, you don't need Decay. In that case, you need to buy Suppressor. It's just the best item against gun characters as long as you don't need Decay. And if you're not against gun characters and you don't need Decay, in that case you get Mystic Vulnerability. Let's talk about the last situational item I have, and that's Metal Skin. The reason I put that for a completely different category is because I buy Metal Skin almost every single game. It is such a good item, it has amazing stats as well. It's just an item you want every single game, but the timing of when you want to buy it totally depends on how the game state is. It depends when are you team fighting, when do you need it, do they have a haste, do they have a rave, is it actually important for you to get this item, and when do you need to get the item in the game, because it varies from every single game and there's no real answer to this question. So that's why I put it for its own category, and there's really no other item like it. Once you have all of these items, you know what you're doing, you're at a really good point in the mid game, you're super strong. At this point, you want to start getting Leech or Echo Shot. Generally, I go for Leech because it gives you the best stats, it's super strong, you're able to heal, you're able to sustain, and you're able to shoot all the time. If you get nuked down in a team fight, you can quickly go do some journal camps, come back to the fight very quickly. You don't have to base anymore and waste your time. Now, if you don't need leads and you can't really shoot the opponents that often, in that case, just get Echo Shot, get your double stuns with the 2, you use the 2 ones, you pop Echo Shot, you use it again on a separate target or somebody else, and you're going to have a tremendous amount of impact in the team fight. Now, once you have both of those, you get improved reads because you just want to make your stun a little bit stronger. And at this point, you generally have your full build. You have literally everything you want to get. Now you can kind of look what do you really need to get. There's other situational items like Unstoppable, there's improved spirit armor if they have a lot of spirit damage. Or otherwise you can just get more damage with Boundless Spirit, you can get Divine Kevlar for some other sustain. There's just so many items here that it really depends on the game state. Generally, I just look at what I'm against. I look, do they have a lot of AP damage? Do I really need improved spirit? Am I going to be stunned all the time? Do I need Unstoppable? Or should I just get some more damage with Boundless Spirit? Also, Soul Rebirth tends to be quite good because you have 2 lives and you can activate your stun a second time or third time even. I mean, honestly, I can't give too much guidance at this point because there's so many different situations that it's honestly impossible to tell you. So the only thing I can say is the items you generally want to look at this time is Unstoppable, Improved Spirit Armor, Boundless Spirit, Soul Rebirth, Divine Kevlar, and Escalating Exposure. Last but not least, we have Titanic Magazine, but generally you only want this item if you have all the other ones, so that's why I don't really put much importance on it. Let's do a quick deep dive on 7 skill order. So level 1, you generally want to start with your 1, the ball, and the lightning ball is the best because it allows you to push really quickly, it does a lot of damage, and it allows you to zone the opponents, which actually gives you the opportunity to stop them from last hitting, and stealing the last hits a lot easier, which is going to give you a lot of pressure in the lane. Now, the next ability you want to get is your stun, because the stun gives you kill pressure. If you can get somebody low, you can kill, especially if you're in a duel lane. If you're 2 people, the stun is just tremendous. You stun somebody, you 2 people on him, he's gonna take a lot of damage. Potentially even get an early kill if you have an easy matchup. 7 strengths and weaknesses. So, it's very important we understand what our hero is good at, because otherwise it's impossible for us to play it optimally. So one of 7's biggest strengths is his speed. He is incredibly fast and he can run across the map at sonic speed. Like honestly, he's just faster than every other hero in the game. Now you want to utilize this to jungle clear faster. You want to utilize it to split push, because you can almost always group up faster than your opponents. So which means if you're on the side lane with an opponent, you'll be able to push and group with your team before they can do so, which is very important. Now talking about his running speed, he's also one of the fastest jungle clears, and he can do the level 3 camp very early on. Now let's bring in a weakness as well. His laning phase is sadly not that good, and it's easy for the opponents to abuse him in lane. So you really want to make sure you get into an easy lane, you buy items that I explained earlier that are really good for the laning phase, so you can get through it hopefully ahead or at least equal. Alright, back to strengths. So one of his strongest points is also his split push potential. He's very quick, his damage is high, and his ball is amazing at killing the minions and hitting the walkers or towers because it does a lot of AoE damage. He also has incredibly high damage in teamfights, and his CC is exceptional because of the stun, especially the echo shot where you can utilize it twice. Now let's get back to some more weaknesses. He's very squishy and he's super easy to catch. So it's very important that your positioning is very good on 7 because the opponents can easily run you over, and if they first get on you, your stun takes a long time to trigger and it's not going to save you. Now my entire build can be found in game if you search under wickd demon damage 7. I put everything in order so it's very easy to follow. I also put some notes on the specific items like return fire, reactive barrier, and some other items like duration extender or superior duration extender. Just telling you kind of what you need to do and guiding you through the build. So one simple thing you guys can do is go in here, find the build and just like it or favorite it, and you will be able to find it whenever you play 7. Should be very easy, and it should help you guys have a good time whenever you pick the champion, and hopefully you're able to carry a lot of games with this build. Thank you guys for watching the guide. I stream regularly on twitch.tv, so feel free to check me out under the alias wickd. And then hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, boys.